The scrapyard was quiet that night. Old machines, broken wires, and rusted metal filled the place like a graveyard of forgotten technology. The only sound was the wind brushing against the tall fences. It was the perfect place to hide. Or so, she thought. Her name was Ryluna. She was not from Earth. Her skin had a soft bluish-purple tone, and her eyes glowed faintly under the moonlight. A small metal scanner blinked in her hand as she moved through the shadows. She wore a dark, thin cloak to blend in. Her ship had crashed far from here, and the only way to fix it was to find a rare converter chip, and maybe some old stabilizers too. Ryluna crouched behind a broken hoverbike and looked around. The signal on her scanner was close. She carefully moved toward a tall stack of junk where a few old crates sat untouched. She pulled one open and her eyes lit up. Inside was the part she needed. Just as she reached for it, a deep human voice broke the silence. "Hey, that's mine." Ryluna froze. Her heart jumped. Slowly, she turned around. A young human stood a few meters away. He wore a dusty brown jacket, black work pants, and boots covered in grease. He held a small flashlight in one hand and a strange tool in the other. His short dark hair was messy, and his face looked both surprised and annoyed. "I don't like thieves," he said, stepping closer. Ryluna didn't move. She looked at him carefully, unsure of what to do. She could fight. She could run. But something about his voice didn't sound dangerous. "I'm not a thief," she said quietly. "You're not from around here either," he replied, raising an eyebrow. "I've never seen anyone like you." Ryluna hesitated. "My ship is broken. I only need this to fix it. I'll leave after that." The man lowered the flashlight a bit. "You're an alien?" "Yes." "And you came here for spare parts?" She nodded. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he let out a slow breath and looked around the yard. "This place is mine," he said. "I built most of it myself, but I guess one chip won't hurt." Ryluna blinked, surprised. "You'll let me take it?" "If you tell me the truth," he said. "All of it, and maybe help me fix a few things in return." She paused, then gave a small nod. "That sounds fair." He stepped closer, still cautious. "Name's Kai. I'm a mechanic. What's yours?" "Ryluna." "Well, Ryluna," he said, reaching for the crate. "You've got some explaining to do." He led her through the yard and into a small workshop made of metal panels and wood. Inside, the lights were soft and machines hummed quietly. Tools hung on the walls and a half-repaired drone lay on the table. It smelled like oil and melted plastic. Ryluna looked around with interest. She had seen many advanced places across the stars, but this one was different. Small, human, yet full of strange creativity. Kai handed her a chair. "Sit. I'll make some tea." She didn't know what tea was, but she sat quietly and watched him pour hot water into 2 mugs. He handed her one, then leaned against the workbench. "So," he began, "where are you from?" Ryluna took a sip. It tasted bitter, but warm. "A system called Velara Prime. I was sent here on a scouting mission. But something went wrong with the ship. I crashed in the forest 3 days ago. I've been hiding since then." Kai looked thoughtful. "Are you alone?" "Yes." "Anyone coming for you?" "I don't think so. I shut down the beacon. If they track me, they'll think I'm lost in space." He nodded slowly. "That's smart." They sat in silence for a while. Then Ryluna spoke again. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just needed help." Kai smiled a little. "Well, you're lucky I didn't call the police." "What's police?" "People who usually don't like aliens sneaking around." Ryluna tilted her head. "Then why didn't you call them?" Kai shrugged. "I guess I was curious, and you don't look like you're here to attack anyone." She gave a small smile. "I'm not." He took a sip of his tea, then pointed at her scanner. "Tomorrow, you show me the rest of your ship. I'll see what I can do." "Why help me?" she asked softly. He looked at her, his eyes calm. "Because I fix things. That's what I do. For the first time since she landed on Earth, Ryluna felt safe. Maybe this place wasn't so bad after all. The morning sunlight streamed through the dusty windows of Kai's workshop. Ryluna woke up on the small couch Kai had provided, feeling more comfortable than she had in days. She'd been alone since her crash, but now there was something different, something almost familiar in the air. The smell of metal, warm tea, and the steady hum of machines felt like a strange kind of home. Kai was already awake, working at his desk with his back to her. She sat up slowly, stretching her arms and feeling the stiff muscles in her back. The crash had left her battered, but nothing too serious. She could still fix her ship. She just needed the right parts. You sleep. Well? Kai asked without turning around. Ryluna nodded. Better than I expected. Kai turned around, holding a mug of tea in his hand. I made breakfast if you're hungry. She glanced at the half-finished ship model on his desk. I'm more interested in getting to work. He raised an eyebrow. Eager to leave? Ryluna hesitated. She had to leave. Her mission wasn't over. But there was a small part of her that didn't want to go. Not yet. I'm not leaving today. Not yet. I need your help, Kai, she said quietly. He leaned against the workbench, sipping his tea. I told you I'm a mechanic. What can I help you with? Ryluna's fingers brushed the edges of the metal crate beside her. She looked at the scanner in her hand and then back at Kai. I need more than just spare parts. I need a way to hide the energy signal from my ship. Kai's expression softened. He placed the mug down and walked over to a pile of old electronics stacked against the wall. I've got a few old parts I can use, but it's not going to be easy. I can try to hide your signal, but I need to know more about your ship. Ryluna glanced at him, surprised. You'll help me? Like I said, Kai replied. I fix things. If I can, I will. She felt a strange warmth inside. She hadn't expected him to offer. People on her home planet wouldn't do this. No one would help an alien. But here, on Earth, it seemed like it was possible. She didn't fully understand why, but it felt right. Thank you, she said softly. Kai nodded. No problem. But first, let's check out your ship. I'm curious to see it. Later that morning, Kai led Ryluna to a small vehicle that had once been a cargo truck, but now it was used to haul parts and equipment. It was old, but reliable. The journey to the crash site wasn't long, but it gave Ryluna time to think. As they arrived at the crash site, she felt a knot in her stomach. Her ship had been nothing more than a twisted mess of metal, leaking fluids and barely holding together. She had managed to seal the main compartment, but everything else was beyond repair. This is it, she said, her voice quiet as she stepped out of the truck. Kai looked at the wreckage, then back at Ryluna. It doesn't look too bad. You've managed to do a good job with it. I've had to, she said. I couldn't just leave it here. The damage was more than I expected. But now, I need parts. She led him to the wreckage, showing him the parts she had already salvaged. The ship's core was the most important part. If it couldn't be fixed, she wouldn't be able to leave. Kai crouched down, inspecting the damage. This is going to take some work. I can help with the stabilizers and the fuel converters, but the core, it's complicated. Ryluna's heart sank. She knew the core was the most important piece of the ship. Without it, she couldn't leave Earth, but she hadn't expected Kai to have a quick fix. I understand, but if you can do anything, I'll try, he said. We'll work together. I'll get you what you need. Ryluna felt a small smile tug at the corners of her lips. She wasn't sure how or why, but she knew that with Kai's help, things might just work out. Back in Kai's workshop, they got to work. He immediately set to work tearing apart old machines, combining them with alien tech Ryluna had brought. They worked in silence, only the sound of tools clinking and metal being shaped breaking the quiet. As hours passed, Ryluna began to notice something she hadn't expected. Kai wasn't just a mechanic. He was smart. He was creative. He had the same kind of determination that she had. It was something she had never really seen before, in humans. "You're different," she said, looking up from her workbench. "The way you fix things, it's not like anything I've seen before." Kai looked up, his face serious but soft. "I've had to make do with what I have. Humans aren't as advanced as your kind, but we can make things work." Ryluna nodded, considering his words. I think I've underestimated humans." "Most people do," Kai said with a small smile. She found herself smiling back. "Maybe I was wrong to think your people were weak." Kai shrugged. "Not everyone on Earth is weak. We've just had to learn to survive." "I think I've learned that," she said. "I'm starting to understand." The day turned to night, and they continued to work, the bond between them growing stronger with every piece of metal they fixed. For the first time since she'd crash-landed on Earth, Ryluna wasn't just thinking about escape. She was beginning to think about something more, something she couldn't explain. She didn't know what would happen next, but for now she had a human to help her, and maybe even more than that. The days began to blend together as Kai and Ryluna worked side by side in the cramped workshop. The sound of metal clanging, tools turning, and machines buzzing filled the space as the alien girl and the human engineer worked tirelessly on fixing the damaged ship. Kai had already started to assemble some of the spare parts Ryluna needed, and the more they worked together, the easier it became to fall into a rhythm. Kai had never worked with someone like Ryluna before. She was fast, precise, and knew exactly how to handle even the most complex pieces of machinery. Despite being from a different world, she seemed to understand every problem that arose in the workshop, as if she had spent years working on Earth's technology. It impressed him, and he found himself drawn to her sharp mind and calm demeanor. As they sat over a half-repaired circuit board, Kai wiped the sweat from his forehead, glancing at Ryluna. She was hunched over a control panel, her blue-purple skin glowing faintly under the light of the overhead lamp. Her focus was intense, her small elf-like ears twitching slightly as she worked. "How did you learn to fix things like this?" Kai asked, his voice curious. Ryluna didn't look up, but she smiled a little. "Back on my planet, all we do is repair and modify things. Our tech is always evolving. We're always improving, pushing the limits of what we can do. But there's something about Earth's technology." She paused, looking up at him. "It's different. It feels raw." "Raw?" Kai echoed, confused. "Not as clean as what we have, but it has something," Ryluna explained. "It's full of mistakes and creativity. You humans don't always follow the rules, but you make things work. It's fascinating." Kai chuckled softly. "Yeah, we're good at making mistakes, but we somehow make it work anyway." Ryluna studied him for a moment, her blue eyes softening. "You're like your technology. There's something raw in you too. You don't hide your emotions or fears. You just face them, even if it's difficult." Kai paused, unsure of how to respond. He wasn't used to someone analyzing him like that, especially someone from another world. But there was something about Ryluna's words that felt real. She saw things in him that most people missed. He scratched his head, uncomfortable. "I don't know. I'm just a guy trying to make a living." "You're more than that," she said quietly, returning her attention to the control panel. Kai glanced at her, a little surprised. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't find the words. He wasn't used to this kind of conversation, especially with someone so different from him. But there was a strange pull in the air, a quiet tension he didn't fully understand. The hours passed and the work continued, but something shifted between them. There was a quiet understanding, a sense that they weren't just two strangers from different worlds anymore. They were becoming something else. Partners, maybe even friends, but something more was beginning to form, though neither of them dared to acknowledge it. Later that evening, as they took a break, Kai sat on a stool, wiping his hands with a rag. Ryluna stood near the workbench, staring at a broken engine part. The silence between them was comfortable, but Kai could feel the weight of it. Finally, he couldn't hold it back anymore. "You know, I thought you were just another alien at first," he said, his voice light. "But now I don't know." Ryluna looked up, her eyes meeting his. "What do you mean?" Kai stood up, rubbing the back of his neck. "I mean, I thought all you aliens were like the ones in the movies. Dangerous, cold, distant. But you're not like that." She tilted her head, her small, elf-like ears catching the light. "You thought I was dangerous? I mean, you are an alien, right? I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure what you wanted from me." He paused. "But you've been kind to me. And I haven't had to worry about you hurting anyone. You've just helped." Rayluna's expression softened and she walked over to him. "You have nothing to fear from me, Kai. I'm not here to hurt you. I came because I needed help. And now, I'm beginning to understand that I might need something else." Kai swallowed hard, his heart racing a little. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said quietly, stepping closer, "I don't think I'm just here for spare parts anymore." Her voice was soft, but it carried a weight that he couldn't ignore. Kai could feel the distance between them closing, and his pulse quickened. He wasn't sure what was happening, but something was, definitely changing. The way they worked together, the way they spoke, the way they understood each other, it all felt different now. They were so close that Kai could almost reach out and touch her. Her blue skin, her soft beauty, her warmth, it felt like everything was pulling them together. Before he could stop himself, he spoke. "I don't want you to leave." Ryluna blinked, surprised. She had been expecting him to say something about the ship, about her leaving. But instead, he said something that struck her deeply. She had never imagined she would form a bond with a human, let alone feel something this strong. Kai, on the other hand, was suddenly aware of how much he had come to care for her. The truth hit him like a wave. It wasn't just the ship anymore. He didn't want to lose Ryluna, not now. She stepped back slightly, her face a mix of surprise and something softer, something more uncertain. "I don't want to leave either," she whispered. The days after their quiet conversation were filled with more work, but also a quiet unease that hung between them. Ryluna and Kai were both focused on fixing the ship, but their growing connection made the task feel different. The strange pull between them was there, lingering in the background of every moment they shared. Ryluna couldn't stop thinking about Kai. He was different from what she had expected. So kind, so open, so human. He saw her not as an alien, but as someone who needed help. And in return, he had received her trust, something she had never easily given to anyone. The more time they spent together, the more she wondered about her place in this world. Her mission was still unfinished. She had to get her ship repaired, and then she would leave Earth behind. But as each day passed, the thought of leaving Kai became harder and harder to accept. She wasn't sure if she was ready to go, if she was even able to. Kai, too, was feeling the strain of their growing connection. He'd never imagined that a simple mechanic job would turn into something like this. He had never felt so close to anyone in such a short time, especially someone from another world. He found himself thinking about her even when she wasn't around, and it confused him. He had helped aliens before, but he had never shared a bond like this. They had barely spoken about what had happened between them. Both of them had avoided it, perhaps because they weren't sure what it meant. But as the evening settled in one night, with the soft hum of the workshop surrounding them, something in the air changed. Suddenly, the faint sound of a ship engine reached their ears. Kai stood up sharply. "That sounds like..." Ryluna's heart raced. She had already identified the sound before Kai spoke. The sleek, dangerous sound of a ship's engines, one that didn't belong to Earth. Her skin went cold. "They found me," Ryluna whispered, her voice tight with fear. "They've tracked me." Kai looked at her, alarm growing in his eyes. "Who?" "Others from my planet," she said, her hand reaching for a hidden weapon beneath her cloak. "They're coming to finish the mission. I thought I had more time." She looked at Kai, her eyes wide with panic. "I need to leave now." "But your ship, it's not ready," Kai said. rushing to the workbench to grab a tool. He paused, looking back at her. I can't let you go without... There's no time, she snapped, her voice harsh. She had never been so scared, never felt so vulnerable. The ship's engines grew louder, getting closer. I'll fix it myself, Kai, I can do it. But I need to go before they land. Kai shook his head. I won't let you go alone. Riluna's heart twisted. She knew she couldn't drag him into this. Whatever was coming, she couldn't let him be part of it. He had already done more for her than anyone ever had. I can't drag you into this, she said softly. It's dangerous. You don't understand. If they find me, Earth won't be safe. He stepped forward, standing close enough for her to feel his warmth. Then we run. Together. Riluna's mind raced. She couldn't let him get hurt. She couldn't allow it. Kai, you don't know what you're asking for. I know you're scared, but I've got your back, Riluna. I can help you hide. We'll figure it out. She looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. For the first time, Riluna allowed herself to feel something she had long buried. Hope. Maybe Kai could help. Maybe together they could make it through. Before she could respond, the loud roar of engines filled the air. The ship was getting closer, and she knew that if they didn't act fast, they'd be too late. Let's go, she said, grabbing his hand. They ran out of the workshop, rushing toward the truck that Kai had used to get them to the crash site. As they sped toward the wrecked ship, Kai looked at her. We'll hide the signal, he said. I've got some tricks I can use, but we need to act fast. Riluna nodded. She had no choice but to trust him now. She had never imagined running from danger with a human by her side, but it felt right. She wasn't alone anymore, not with him. As they approached the wrecked ship, the sound of the alien ship grew louder. Riluna's eyes scanned the sky, and her hand clenched around the small communicator she had been using to send distress signals. It was silent now, but that didn't matter. What mattered was keeping Kai and the rest of Earth safe. I need to mask the ship's energy, she said, her voice tight. Can you distract them? Do whatever you can to keep them from tracking me. Kai nodded quickly. I'll get to work. He jumped out of the truck as it screeched to a halt. Riluna was already at the ship, her hands working quickly to initiate the cloaking system. She could hear the ship approaching, too close now. The sound of it reverberated in her chest, and she felt a jolt of fear surge through her. Come on, she muttered, working faster. Please work. She glanced over her shoulder to see Kai running toward the trees, grabbing anything he could find to make noise and throw. Anything to keep them distracted, to buy her time. Riluna finished activating the cloaking device, but it wouldn't be enough. The ship would still track her, and if they found her, there would be no escape. As the engines of the approaching ship roared closer, she knew she was running out of time. She had to make a decision, and she had to make it fast. Would they be able to escape? Would they get away before the alien ship found them? The alien ship was getting closer. Riluna's heart pounded as she worked furiously to stabilize the energy cloak on her ship. She could feel the pressure building, not just from the noise of the ship's engines, but from the weight of the situation. She had come to Earth seeking help, but now, with danger on the horizon, she wasn't sure what would happen next. Kai was still running through the trees, throwing pieces of debris to distract the approaching ship. His face was set in determination as he disappeared into the shadows, but Riluna couldn't afford to wait for him to finish. She needed to act fast. The cloak was working, but only for short bursts. It wasn't perfect, it would only hide her ship for a few minutes, and if the ship got too close, it would lose the effect. Her hands shook as she adjusted the controls, trying to extend the energy field for longer. I don't have time for this, she muttered under her breath. Suddenly, she heard the unmistakable sound of the alien ship's engines slowing down. They were close, too close. The ship was descending, and if they spotted her now, it would be impossible to escape. Riluna's mind raced. Kai! She shouted, hoping he could hear her. There was no response. She looked back to the sky, her eyes narrowing as the ship hovered above the wreckage. The cloaking device was fading fast, and she knew she had seconds, not minutes before they would be discovered. Her fingers moved with precision, recalculating the energy balance and adjusting the stabilizers. She pushed every thought from her mind except for one: keep the ship hidden. She had to trust Kai to hold off the aliens just a little longer. Then, as if in answer to her silent prayer, the truck engine roared to life. Kai had returned. He sped back toward her, his face grim but focused. "The ship's almost here," he called out, jumping out of the truck. "We need to do something, Ryluna." Ryluna looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and urgency. "We can't let them find me. It's not just my life at risk now, it's Earth's too." Kai nodded. He understood. Without another word, he grabbed a nearby tool and together they rushed to the ship. "What do you need me to do?" Kai asked as they reached the entrance. To the ship. Ryluna didn't hesitate. "The ship's energy shield is weakening. I need you to help me reinforce it. If you can, just do what you can. I don't care how. We can't afford to fail." Kai looked at her for a moment before nodding. "Got it. I'll do my best." Ryluna's eyes darted back to the sky. The alien ship was now circling overhead, its dark silhouette against the stars. If it spotted them now, they'd be finished. She quickly led Kai into the heart of the ship's control room. The air inside was cold, the hum of technology filling the space. She turned to the control panel, her fingers flying across the buttons. "There anything I can do to help?" Kai asked, watching her with concern. "Just stay focused," Ryluna replied. "We don't have much time." She glanced over at the external camera, seeing the ship descending closer and closer to the wreck. It was moments away from landing, and Ryluna knew that if they didn't hide the ship completely, they would be discovered. She pressed the final button on the control panel, activating the secondary cloaking shield. The ship's engines sputtered for a moment, and the air around them hummed as the energy field expanded. Ryluna's heart raced as she saw the shield flicker to life, wrapping the ship in an almost invisible energy layer. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. "We've got a few minutes," Ryluna said, her voice tight. "We need to get out of here." Just as she turned to leave, the air above them shifted. The alien ship was still hovering, scanning the ground below. Ryluna could see the lights on its hull flash as it searched the wreckage. It was only a matter of time before it discovered them. "We have to move now," Ryluna said urgently, pushing Kai toward the exit. They ran to the truck, Kai glancing up nervously at the ship still hovering in the distance. His heart was racing. The tension was unbearable. Would they make it in time? Would they be able to escape before the aliens found them? As they reached the truck, Ryluna quickly jumped in the driver's seat. She slammed the ignition, and the truck roared to life, kicking up dirt as they sped toward the dense trees, hoping to use them as cover. Kai looked back at the alien ship as they drove. It was still up there, but the cloaking shield had given them a temporary advantage. For now, they were safe. But he knew it wouldn't last forever. "I won't let them find us," Ryluna said, her voice determined. "I'll make sure of it. I trust you," Kai replied, glancing at her with a mix of admiration and concern. "But we need a plan. They won't give up that easily." "We'll figure it out," Ryluna said, her eyes narrowing as she focused on the road ahead. One step at a time. The truck bounced along the dirt path, the trees flying by as they made their way deeper into the wilderness. Ryluna's mind raced. She didn't know how long their escape would last. She didn't know how long they could stay hidden. But for the first time since she had arrived on Earth, she felt like they had a chance. Together they could face whatever came next. The truck bounced along the rough road as Ryluna and Kai made their way deeper into the forest, trying to stay hidden from the alien ship that still hovered in the sky. The trees grew thicker, and the underbrush became more difficult to navigate. But Ryluna didn't slow down. She couldn't afford to, not with her life and the safety of Earth on the line. Kai glanced over at her, his face serious. "How long do you think we can stay ahead of them?" Ryluna didn't look up from the road. "Not long. They'll send Search P. Arties or worse, they'll start scanning the whole area. We have to get to higher ground. If we can get to the cliffs near the river, we might be able to hide the signal for longer." Kai nodded. He knew that if they didn't find a way to stay hidden, they'd be caught. The ship above wasn't going to stop searching until it found her. They drove in silence for a while, the only sound the hum of the engine and the crunch of the tires on the gravel path. Kai couldn't help but glance at Rayluna every few moments. Her face was calm, but he could see the tension in her posture. She wasn't used to feeling like this, vulnerable. In the few days he had known her, he had come to admire her strength and determination, but now even she seemed uncertain, and that scared him. "What happens if they find us?" Kai asked after a while, breaking the silence. Rayluna's eyes flickered over to him for a moment before returning to the road. "I won't let them catch me, but if they do, they'll take me back to Valara Prime. They won't care about Earth, they'll wipe out whatever they want to make sure I'm punished." Kai's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of her words, the fear behind them. He knew he couldn't let that happen, but he wasn't sure how to stop it. "We can't let them do that," he said, his voice firm. "We'll figure something out." Rayluna gave him a small, grateful smile. "You're right, we will." The truck rumbled over another bump, and Kai's eyes went back to the sky, watching the ship as it circled in the distance. The longer they stayed in the open, the more likely it was they would be spotted. He could feel the pressure building, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. But there was one thing he knew for sure. He wasn't going to let Rayluna face this alone. They reached the edge of the forest, just as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land. The cliffs near the river were close now. Rayluna's eyes scanned the terrain, calculating the best route to take. "There's a cave near here," she said, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "We can hide there while I work on the ship. It's far enough from the road to be safe, and the river will make it harder for anyone to track us." Kai's eyes followed her gaze as she pointed toward a narrow path leading up the cliffside. "Do you think it's safe?" "It's our best chance," Rayluna replied. They parked the truck at the base of the cliff and began to climb the rocky path. Rayluna moved with ease, her alien agility allowing her to navigate the uneven ground effortlessly. Kai, however, struggled to keep up. His legs were sore from the long day, and the weight of the situation weighed on him. But he wasn't about to stop. Not now. They reached the cave after what felt like hours, and as Rayluna had said, it was hidden well. The entrance was small, just wide enough for them to slip through, and the thick trees above provided a natural shield from the view of the sky. Rayluna led the way inside, and once they were both in, she began to set up a small area with the spare parts and tools she had managed to bring with her. Kai sat against the back wall of the cave, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He had seen the way Rayluna looked when she mentioned being punished. The fear in her eyes told him everything he needed to know. But he didn't know how to help her. She had been so strong, so determined, but now she seemed different. The weight of everything was getting to her. After a few moments of silence, Rayluna finally spoke, breaking the stillness. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice softer than usual. Kai looked up, confused. "Sorry? For what?" "For dragging you into this," she said, her eyes downcast. "I didn't mean to get you involved. I know you have your life here, your family. I didn't want to put you at risk." Kai's heart softened as he stood up and walked over to her. "You didn't drag me into anything. I chose to help you, and I'm not sorry I did." Rayluna looked up at him, her eyes filled with something Kai couldn't quite place. "But it's not your fight," she said quietly. "You have so much to lose, and I'm just a stranger. You don't have to stay." "I'm not going anywhere," Kai said, his voice steady. "I don't care what you think. I want to help you. I don't want to lose you, Rayluna." Rayluna's heart skipped a beat as she looked into his eyes. For the first time since she'd arrived on Earth, she felt something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Hope. "I don't want to leave either," she whispered. The night was quiet in the cave, with only the distant sound of the river rushing below. Kai sat near the entrance, watching the stars flicker overhead. The weight of their situation pressed heavily on his chest, but there was something peaceful about the stillness of the night. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but in this moment he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't turn his back on Rayluna. She was still working on her ship, using the tools she had scavenged from the wreckage and the parts Kai had helped her gather. Her face was focused, her hands moving with precision as she connected wires and adjusted circuits. The soft glow of the ship's control panel lit up her face, making her look almost ethereal in the dim light. Kai couldn't help but watch her, his heart swelling with admiration. She wasn't just an alien, she was strong, intelligent, and determined. He had never met anyone like her before. Despite the danger, despite the uncertainty, he was glad she had come to him for help. "Are you getting anywhere?" Kai asked, breaking the silence. Rayluna didn't look up but smiled faintly. "Slowly, but I'll get it fixed." Kai stood and walked over to her, peering over her shoulder at the ship's control panel. "You know, I've never seen tech like this before. It's impressive." She nodded, still focused on her work. "We've perfected our technology over thousands of years. It's different from yours, but it's also more fragile. It requires constant maintenance, constant upgrading. One mistake and it could fail." Kai glanced around at the wreckage of her ship. "Looks like it's had a lot of mistakes." Railuna's eyes flickered to him, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw a hint of sadness in them. But then it was gone, replaced by her usual calm composure. "It was not a mistake, it was an accident. One I couldn't avoid." Kai sat down beside her, careful not to disturb her work. He had 1,000 questions running through his mind. He wanted to know more about where she came from, about her world and how it worked. But more than that, he wanted to understand why she was so reluctant to ask for help. It wasn't just about the ship. There was more to her than that. "You ever think about going back?" Kai asked, his voice quieter this time. Rayluna paused, her hands hovering over the ship's panel as if she was considering the question. "Every day, but I can't, not now. Not until I fix this." "Fix what?" Kai asked, confused. "My mission," she replied. "I was sent here for a reason, Kai, but I can't leave until it's completed." Kai frowned, not fully understanding. "What's your mission?" Rayluna took a deep breath, finally looking up at him. "I was sent to Earth to scout it, to see if it's suitable for colonization. We've been watching Earth for years, observing its growth, its potential. But something happened during the mission. My ship was damaged and I had to crash here. Now I need to repair it and return to Valara Prime, but you don't want to leave." Kai finished for her, his voice soft. She nodded. "No, I've never wanted to stay on this planet, but being here, meeting you, it's changed things. I didn't expect to find this, to feel this." Kai's heart skipped a beat. "Feel what?" Rayluna looked at him, her blue-purple eyes searching his face. "I didn't expect to find connection, something real. I've spent my whole life following orders, doing what was expected of me. But when I met you, it felt like I could finally choose my own path." Kai felt a lump form in his throat. He knew what she meant. He had felt it too, but he didn't know how to say it. There were so many things he wanted to ask, so many things he wanted to understand, but the words felt inadequate. "You're not alone anymore," Kai said quietly, his hand reaching out to touch hers. "You don't have to go back to Valara Prime. You have options. You have me." Railuna's fingers hesitated for a moment before gently resting against his. The connection between them, so unexpected and so powerful, was undeniable now. She had never allowed herself to care for anyone, never thought it was possible. But Kai had changed that. He had shown her a side of Earth, a side of herself she never thought she would experience. "I don't want to leave," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "I don't want to lose this." Kai squeezed her hand. "Then don't." They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of the decision settling between them. Rayluna had come to Earth with a mission, with a purpose. But now, in this moment, her purpose had changed. Earth had become something more than just a place to survive. It had become her home. Kai was her home. "Stay," he said, his voice steady. "Sure, we'll figure it out together. I'm not going anywhere." Rayluna finally smiled, a true smile, the kind she hadn't shared with anyone in a long time. I think I'd like that, she said softly. And for the first time since she had crash-landed on Earth, Ryluna felt like she had found a place where she truly belonged, not just on this planet, but with him.